Hello, I'm Bernard Norcott-Mahany. I work at the Blueford branch of the Kansas City Public Library. And we're coming to the end of National Poetry Month. And I've, except for today, the 28th, when I presented some poems by Keats, I've been focusing on Alexander Pope. And so I thought, we've got a couple more days left. I would focus on one last poem of Alexander Pope's. This is a poem called Eloisa to Abelard. So, a couple things about the poem. This is earlier in Keats' career, in Pope's career, 1717, than the other stuff that we did, which was later. At this point, he's still doing more sort of romantic poetry and that sort of thing. Pope is considered sort of a classicist. He follows sort of classical models, classical ideals. His big breakthrough was when he translated Homer's Iliad. That was the thing that really sort of brought him into the big poetry scene and made it possible for him to make a living through the rest of his life on his poetic output. So he, in some ways, he was sort of the first professional poet, not dependent on, some rich person as his patron. And the Iliad made that happen. This is before that, so he's not quite there yet. But he is looking to classical models. So the Roman poet Ovid wrote a work called the Heroides. And these were, which means the heroines. This is a collection of verse epistles. So they're letters in which he is taking the part of some famous woman of mythology. So, for instance, Medea writing to Jason, or Penelope writing to Odysseus, that sort of thing. And it was a popular work. Ovid was a popular poet in his time. And Pope, in this poem, he is basically sort of imitating that. But instead of using classical figures, here he's using two figures from medieval Christianity. Peter Abelard, who was a famous scholastic philosopher, sort of one of the big names in medieval philosophy, and his student, Eloise is what she's generally known as, here called Eloisa. And Abelard was tutoring Eloise. Then they fell in love. They had a sort of a romantic, a sexual affair. Eloise's family was very angry at Abelard, and they actually had him castrated because of this. And Abelard then basically entered a monastery. Eloise entered a convent where they spent the rest of their lives. But later in their life, Abelard wrote something that really stirred Eloise, and Eloise then wrote an epistle, wrote a letter to Abelard, and they started this sort of epistolary friendship. They reignited their friendship. So this is sort of what's behind the poem here. And the interesting thing about the poem is Pope didn't do like a whole series of these verse epistles where he's basically taking the part of a famous fictional or historic character. Instead, this is sort of almost a standalone poem in this vein. But the poem was still so popular that people imitated the poem. There are several versions of this poem, or like similar renditions, so other letters from Eloise, or responses of Abelard to this verse epistle. So I did get the ball rolling in this sort of material. So, Eloisa to Abelard, 1717. Argument. Abelard and Eloisa flourished in the 12th century. They were two of the most distinguished persons of their age in learning and beauty, but for nothing more famous than for their unfortunate passion. After a long course of calamities, they retired each to a several convent, and consecrated the remainder of their days to religion. It was many years after the separation that a letter of Abelard's to a friend, which contained the history of his misfortune, fell into the hands of Eloisa. This awakening of her tenderness occasioned those celebrated letters, out of which the following is partly extracted, which gives so lively a picture of the struggles of grace and nature, virtue and passion. In these deep solitudes and awful cells, where heavenly pensive contemplation dwells, and ever musing melancholy reigns, what means this tumult in a vestal's veins? Why rove my thoughts beyond this last retreat? Why feels my heart its long forgotten heat? Yet I love. From Abelard it came, and Eloisa yet must kiss the name. Dear fatal name, rest ever unrevealed, nor pass these lips in holy silence sealed. Hide it, my heart, within that close disguise, where mixed with God's his loved idea lies. Oh, write it not, my hand, the name appears already written, wash it out, my tears. In vain lost Eloisa weeps and prays, her heart still dictates, and her mind obeys. Relentless walls, whose darksome round contains repentant sighs and voluntary pains. Ye rugged rocks, which holy knees have worn, ye grots and caverns shagged with hard thorn. Shrines where their vigils pale-eyed virgins keep, and pitying saints whose statues learn to weep. Though cold like you, unmoved and silent grown, I have not yet forgot myself to stone. All is not heaven's while Abelard has part. Still rebel nature holds out half my heart. Nor prayers nor fasts its stubborn pulse restrain, nor tears for ages taught to flow in vain. Soon as thy letters trembling I unclose, that well-known name awakens all my woes. O name forever sad, forever dear, still breathed in sighs, still ushered with a tear, I tremble too, where'er my own I find, some dire misfortune follows close behind. Line after line my gushing eyes o'erflow, led through a sad variety of woe. Now warm in love, now withering in thy bloom, lost in a convent's solitary gloom. There stern religion quenched the unwilling flame. There died the best of passions, love and fame. Yet write, O write me all, that I may join griefs to thy griefs, and echo sighs to thine. Nor foes nor fortune take this power away, and is my Abelard less kind than they? Tears still are mine, and those I need not spare. Love but demands what else were shed in prayer. No happier task these faded eyes pursue, to read and weep is all they now can do. Then share my pain, allow that sad relief. Ah, more than share it, give me all thy grief. Heaven first taught letters from some wretch's aid, some banished lover, or some captive maid. They live, they speak, they breathe what love inspires, warm from the soul and faithful to its fires. The virgin's wish without her fears impart, excuse the blush and pour out all the heart. Speed the soft intercourse from soul to soul, and waft a sigh from Indus to the pole. Thou knowest how guiltless first I met thy flame, when love approached me under friendship's name. My fancy formed thee of angelic kind, some emanation of the all-beauteous mind. Those smiling eyes, attempting every ray, shone sweetly lambent with celestial day. Guiltless I gazed, heaven listened while you sung, and truths divine came mended from that tongue. From lips like those, what precept failed to move? Too soon they taught me 'twas no sin to love. Back through the paths of pleasing sense I ran, nor wished an angel whom I loved a man. Dim and remote the joys of saints I see, nor envy them that heaven I lose for thee. How oft, when pressed to marriage, have I said, curse on all laws but those which love has made. Love, free as air, at sight of human ties, spreads his light wings, and in a moment flies. Let wealth, let honor wait the wedded dame, august her deed, and sacred be her fame. Before true passion all those views remove, fame, wealth, and honor, what are you to love? The jealous God, when we profane his fires, those restless passions in revenge inspires, and bids them make mistaken mortals groan, who seek in love for aught but love alone. Should at my feet the world's great master fall, himself, his throne, his world, I'd scorn them all. Not Caesar's empress would I deign to prove, no, make me mistress to the man I love. If there be yet another name more free, more fond than mistress, make me that to thee. O happy state, when souls each other draw, when love is liberty and nature law. All then is full, possessing and possessed, no craving void left aching in the breast. Even thought meets thought, ere from lips it part, and each warm wish springs mutual from the heart. This sure is bliss, if bliss on earth there be, once the lot of Abelard and me. Alas, how changed! What sudden horrors rise! A naked lover bound and bleeding lies. Where was Eloise? Her voice, her hand, her poniard had opposed the dire command. Barbarian, stay! That bloody stroke restrain. The crime was common be the pain. I can no more. By shame, by rage suppressed, let tears and burning blushes speak the rest.